Alright, we've got a comparison video today. First up, we got the Nikon P1000 camera. It's got 125 power zoom. It's on a Calestron tripod. It's a pretty decent tripod there. Got a Vortex Razor UHD. So it's the smaller, later model Razor, and just on a cheap tripod there. Today we're shooting the Hauer Mini 223 Remington. It's got a Vortex Freedom AR scope on it, just a 3:9, with the TMI reticle and a mil dial. And I'm shooting the Barnes 62 grain TTSX full copper expanding bullet. It's a DPT 22 cal suppressor. Target is out there 200 meters, which is a small steel plate. I'll show you guys on the big camera. The P1000 is going to be shooting in 1080p 60 frames a second, and the Vortex Razor will be on the phone scope, and I just got a Samsung S10E. Alright, so I'll try and hit record on both the cameras at the same time. Fire a few shots. 200 meters today with the 223 is a pretty practical range for the 223. And we'll see how it looks, and then we'll do the zoom out. Alright, we're now at the 400 meters. Do the same again. This time we've got the 270 Ruger M77 with a older model Hardy suppressor. It's just, other than that, pretty standard. And we're shooting the 145 grain ELDX bullets. Alright, so there we have, it's about 700 meters. Just come up to the lake, try to get a bit of footage. Some actual things, look at some definition. So that's in 4K 30 frames a second. A little bit of wind up here on the hill, and you can adjust the focus. Good. That's at the full zoom, and then you still have digital zoom on top of that. So at 700 meters, you can tell how well shaved people are. Green number plates, definition on the animal, pretty easy there. So here we have some buildings and vehicles. They are 2.5 kilometers away. That's full zoom optical there, and we've also got digital zoom as well. A little bit of wind up here on top of the hill moving the tripod around, but not too bad for 2.5K. That's still on 4K. Probably about 2,400 meters there. And this is autofocus mode. So I used a P1000 on the tripod, looking at a few things. Now we're going to go to the Razor on the tripod. We'll look at the same things. Using the phone scope adapter here, which goes on and almost perfectly aligns the camera to the lens here. One thing to note is that looking through the P1000 on the screen and then looking on the scope, they're quite similar. P1000's got a little bit more zoom, but they're quite similar. When I put the phone onto the actual spotter with the phone scope, it's actually a bit lesser quality, as the phone's having to focus on the actual ocular lens in there, as opposed to our human eye, which looks through the lens at our observation area. But I'll chuck it in the phone scope, I'll hook it up, and then we'll have a look at some things. Alright, so there's our 700 meter mark. So straight away off the phone scope, that's about the minimum zoom I can have. It's on 22 power on the spotter, and it's on 1 power on the phone. It's pretty good. What you can see looking through the scope versus what you can see on the spotter. Sorry, what you can see looking through the spotter and what you can see on the screen, pretty much the same, but if you're looking through with your eye and no phone, you actually have a bit more definition. So we'll cruise back there to our 700 meters. These guys are probably sitting at about 5 or 6. We'll have a zoom in on them. If you zoom in, the actual, what we can see on them, it's pretty good. Now I'm going to zoom in my phone camera here onto the lens to make it full screen, but you do lose a bit of sharpness. That's not too bad. So that's 600 there. Clearly make out riding. If you're assessing an animal, no worries. Now we'll cruise up to the far shoreline. People having a good day. Go back to that white U. Alright, tap the phone to adjust the focus. So we're on full zoom there, 48 power on the spotter, and we're zoomed in 2 power on the phone. Keep zooming it in up to 3 power there. You can see a lot of that mirage. tap the truck again to see if it'll focus on it. And we'll zoom in a bit more. That's 5 power on the phone. All the way up to 8 power. So this is a Samsung S10E. Like I said earlier, it's zooming in on the actual ocular lens. So what you see through your eye is a little bit more clear than what you see on here. Back to 1 power on the phone. And then zooming it back out. And that's it, back at 22 power. And not bad. So boat there's about 700 off that point. Pretty good. Going all the way out to 2.5K over there. And even further. If there's anyone up this track. If you're looking for animals on top of the hill. Can't range find that far, so I'll use my map to find out the distance to the top of that hill. It looks like a trig or something up there. Zoom in and have a look. I'll put the actual distance up on the lock that tripod in. Small adjust. That's 48 power on the spotter. It's 4 power on the phone. It's 8 power on the phone there. Pretty far away. Down the hill, that's 2.5K. There's probably another K on top of that. I'll bring out the P1000 again and have a look at that. Flag. Zooming in to look at the flag. Still in 4K, 30 frames a second. We're in manual focus. Lock the tripod. It's full zoom and full digital zoom as well. That one's picking up a bit. Now what I've noticed is on its full extension, the wind pushes the camera around a bit more than the spotter, because the camera's a lot bigger surface area when the tube's extended. It's a light surface area, so it's not as resistant to the wind. It has picked up a lot more now though. So just that focus. So I'd say a slight bit better definition there on the camera. some thoughts on the spotter versus the camera. Spotter doesn't have batteries. You can use it with or without the camera attachment, so yeah, it's always going to give you that magnification that you're after. Camera is probably a lot easier to use if you're going to be doing any videography, especially any of the zoom in, zoom out type shots. Which is a tad lighter, the camera, than the spotter, but it's also a lot more delicate. The old Razors are pretty robust and they've got a lifetime guarantee, so there's one thing for you there. Image quality, well, from what I see on the phone and the camera and looking through the scope at the moment, it's pretty comparable either way. It may look different when I put it on the computer and the TV and then blow it up. That 4K footage and that 1080p 60 frames per second might be just miles ahead, but we'll see when we get back and chuck it on the computer. As it comes to the wind, the spotter is definitely more resilient than the camera. It doesn't get pushed around as much. And the spotter takes batteries, of course. Sorry, the camera takes batteries.